Dave Palumbo with another RxMuscle rant. Today's topic, blood doping and bodybuilders. It sounds like something that you would hear about in cycling and running, but I hear these days, and my sources in the gym tell me that guys are blood doping. What is blood doping? Well, in cycling, they do this for the purposes of raising red blood cell count. They take blood out of their body, they store it in some kind of a bag. They refrigerate it, they wait a month or so, and then when their body has replenished those lost red blood cells, they then reinfuse those red blood cells back into their body so that they have a higher amount of red blood cells and thus higher oxygen carrying capacity. Very good for endurance athletes and people who require more endurance, that's cyclists, runners, etc. Then the drug known as EPO or erythropoietin was synthetically synthesized, and then people started using that. And what that does is it tells the bone marrow to produce more red blood cells, which is obviously doing the same thing as blood doping would do. The problem is that now they have a test where they can detect EPO, or erythropoietin. So a lot of people went back to using blood doping because that's a little harder to tell. They have to really just measure your hemoglobin, hematocrit, and see if it's beyond a certain point, and then they have to make guesses. So blood doping is an easier way to get away with it without the synthetic trail that EPO brings. The question remains, why in the world would a bodybuilder want to use erythropoietin or blood dope for that matter? Why would they want more red blood cells, especially given the fact that steroids themselves raise red blood cell count quite a bit? As a matter of fact, Anadrol 50 was a drug produced to combat anemia back in the day, in the 70s and 80s. Okay, this is before they had synthetic erythropoietin. So people, if they were anemic, they would give them Anadrol and it would raise their red blood cell count. It obviously was a very strong drug and did other things too, but that's what it was originally designed for. And anyone who takes even hormone replacement amounts knows that their hemoglobin, hematocrit, and red blood cell count increase from the injection of these synthetic steroids and testosterones. That's just what they do. So once again, we come back to the question, why in the world would a bodybuilder want to do this? Well, the only reason I can conceivably think of is that obviously, more red blood cells in the body will create a greater vascular look to the bloodstream. In other words, it stretches those blood vessels out a little more, it makes them look more vascular, gives you more blood volume, better pumps. The problem is, especially around competition time, when you dehydrate yourself and you take fluid out of the body, including the bloodstream, the blood gets so thick that it can become clumpy. It can actually clog arteries or clog veins, more likely. If that happens in your coronary arteries of your heart, you get a heart attack. If it happens in your brain, you have a stroke. Okay? If it happens in your legs, you can get occlusions down there and obviously have issues. So we don't want, if it happens in your lungs, you die basically. We don't want blood clots. We don't want the blood clumping too much. Now obviously taking a baby aspirin and taking fish oil and supplements that have anticoagulant effects are good, vitamin E, but there's no benefit in terms of muscle building to the bodybuilder to blood dope or increase red blood cell count beyond what it already is in the body, okay, using drugs like EPO. It's actually one of the most dangerous practices I've ever seen. And I don't want to quote names, but there's been some deaths in our industry that I know for a fact were probably either directly or indirectly due to the use of EPO. It's a dangerous drug. It does not need to be used in bodybuilding. Believe me, if I thought it had muscle building effects, I would have a protocol to use it, but there are none. It's terrific for athletes like MMA fighters, cyclists, like I said, triathletes, marathon runners, guys that run who want more oxygen being delivered to the muscles. For bodybuilders, we pose. We train in the gym using anaerobic activities that don't require oxygen. There's absolutely no reason. Another person, probably another group of people that would benefit from EPO or blood doping would be CrossFitters, because they have an endurance component to what they do. Bodybuilders do not. We don't want thick blood. Matter of fact, thick blood is the death blow to the bodybuilder. So any of you guys who are out there who are blood doping, who have used EPO, who are thinking about using it, don't do it. Stop now. Don't be silly. Go get blood work done. Matter of fact, there's a lot of bodybuilders out there who are smart, who when they do have high hemoglobin, hematocrit, and red blood cell count, go and donate blood just to thin out their blood a little bit, because it could also raise blood pressure. So the bottom line is, at the end of the day, Okay, some drugs are just not meant to be used in bodybuilding, and EPO and blood doping are not practices that anyone should employ whatsoever in the bodybuilding world. Okay? Everyone has their own ideas, their own protocols, their own gurus and coaches out there. Take it from me, okay? I have a very good background in this. Stay away from this practice. It's very dangerous. Dave Palumbo with another RxMuscle rant.